night after the major U.S. strikes on Iran, now directly involved in this conflict. And we are learning much more tonight, some 24 hours after U.S. bombs and missiles struck Iran's three key nuclear facilities. A fleet of B-2 bombers, some of them decoys, some taking off from the U.S. for Guam, others then taking off in the other direction for Iran, going undetected. The B-2 bombers dropping those 30,000-pound bombs for the first time as part of this massive strike on Iran. President Trump overnight addressing the nation, calling the operation a spectacular military success. Critics on the Hill tonight warning of what could come next, with Iran now saying it will retaliate. The first video tonight coming in from inside Iran, an explosion and then a fireball near Iran's Isfahan nuclear facility. Tonight, military officials now describing the high-stakes mission involving 125 aircraft, including one group of B-2 bombers taking off from Missouri, heading to the west as a decoy, and then that second group flying in secret, heading to Iran. Those B-2 bombers dropping 14 massive ordnance penetrator bombs capable of penetrating deep underground on Iran's Fordo and Natanz nuclear sites. This is an animation, of course, and it is still unclear tonight how far those bombs penetrated beneath the earth. In addition, Tomahawk missiles from a U.S. submarine striking the third site, Isfahan. Tonight, satellite images right here of that site 1 week ago, and this satellite image of the Isfahan nuclear site tonight. You can see the evidence of the damage. And this evening here, new questions about Fordo. Satellite images from the days before the strikes show a line of trucks on a service road there. Was Iran moving nuclear material in the days before the attack? Tonight, President Trump saying Iran must now make peace, warning of additional targets if they do not. We begin tonight here with our chief foreign correspondent, Ian Pannell, in Tel Aviv tonight with new reporting, new details inside those 25 minutes over Iran.
Tonight, the first video emerging from the US's audacious attack on 3 Iranian nuclear sites. A fireball lighting the night sky. Explosions heard in the distance at Iran's Isfahan nuclear facility, part of the barrage that included the biggest strike by B-2 stealth bombers in US history. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth before the cameras today.
This is a plan that took months and weeks of positioning and preparation so that we could be ready when the President of the United States called.
President Trump giving the final order for Operation Midnight Hammer last night, a highly classified, top-secret mission that only a handful of US officials knew about, and one that was full of deception.
It took a great deal of precision, it involved misdirection, and the highest of operational security.
About a dozen B-2 bombers taking off from Missouri early Saturday morning, with a decoy group of about half of them heading west towards Guam with trackable movements. And while the world was looking the other way, a short time later, 7 more B-2s taking off, but this time heading in the opposite direction, to the east, directly towards Iran, with no transponders and minimal communications. Those bombers completing multiple mid-air refuelings throughout the 18 hours it took to fly to Iran, the longest since right after the 9/11 attacks, and once over land, linking up with additional support aircraft. The Pentagon saying the 25-minute mission inside Iranian airspace began at 6:40 p.m. Eastern. A first wave of US fighter jets sweeping in front of the B-2s to protect them from possible enemy missiles and warplanes, all part of the deception. Then a lead B-2 bomber dropping the first 2 30,000-pound bunker-busting bombs called the Massive Ordnance Penetrator, or MOPS, on Iran's Fordo nuclear site, buried deep under a mountain.
The remaining bombers then hit their targets as well, with a total of 14 MOPS dropped against 2 nuclear target areas.
Those massive bombs hitting facilities at both Fordo and Natanz, marking the first time they've been used on the battlefield.
We are currently unaware of any shots fired at the U.S. strike package on the way in. Iran's fighters did not fly, and it appears that Iran's surface-to-air missile systems did not see us.
Right after those bunker-busting bombs struck, U.S. missiles hitting a third target.
A U.S. submarine in the Central Command Area of Responsibility launched more than 24 Tomahawk land attack cruise missiles against key surface infrastructure targets at Isfahan.
In total, 125 aircraft and 75 precision-guided weapons were used. New before and after satellite images showing the destruction left behind at these sites. What appears to be extensive damage at buildings in Isfahan and in Natanz, an 18-foot wide hole directly over part of the underground military complex there.
Final battle damage will take some time, but initial battle damage assessments indicate that all three sites sustained extremely severe damage and destruction.
But questions tonight about the impact of those US attacks and whether Iran preempted them. Satellite images from the days before the strike showing unusual activity at the Fordo nuclear site. A line of trucks seen on a service road. It's unclear if Iran anticipated the bombings and moved nuclear material beforehand. Just hours after the US strike, Iran retaliating, firing around 20 ballistic missiles at Israel. Massive destruction here in northern Tel Aviv. You can see the clear-up operation underway, but just look at the destruction to what was a residential apartment block. Again, Iran responding after those American attacks. Iran calling the attack outrageous and a breach of international law, threatening a heavy response and warning US bases in the region are vulnerable to attack. President Trump addressing the nation after the attack, saying Iran must now make peace, warning Iran and its proxies against any retaliation against the US, saying the US will hit more targets with precision, speed and skill.
Tonight I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success.
And late today, those B-2 bombers that hit Iran safely returning home to Missouri. Our affiliate, KMBC, was there some 36 hours after they began their mission.
A great sight to see those B-2 bombers back on the ground here in the U.S. Let's get right back to Ian Pannell live tonight in Tel Aviv. Ian, you and I were on the air last night here after these attacks were revealed. As we know, there are tens of thousands of U.S. troops stationed across the region. Obviously, major concern with Iran saying it will retaliate. The safety of U.S. troops throughout the Middle East of utmost importance tonight.
Yeah, that's right. In fact, the president just posting about the B-2's landing, saying they've landed safely in Missouri. Thank you for a job well done. But yes, tens of thousands, around 40,000 troops still in the region. Extra security precautions have now been put in place. Iran, though, saying later today that it was the US that decided to destroy diplomacy with last night's strike and that the Iranian military will, quote, decide the timing, nature and scale of its response. David.
Ian Pannell, who was on the air with us deep into the night last night, back here again tonight, and we appreciate it. Thank you, Ian.